X-Talks connects professionals in the life science, medical device, and food industries with useful content like webinars, job openings, articles, and virtual meetings to help you succeed in your career. This life science focused podcast brings together some of our editorial staff to share insights into the latest B2B industry news to keep you up to date. This week on the show, we're discussing a new type of drug for menopausal hot flashes and a new dermal filler coming to the U.S. Enjoy the show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the X-Talks Life Science Podcast. I'm Vera, Managing Editor at xtalks.com, and this week I'm joined by Sarah Hand and Sydney Perlmutter. Thanks for coming today. So I'm going to start us off with a story today about two new recent FDA approvals. And the first one is about a new type of drug for treating menopausal hot flashes. It's called Veozah. So Astellas Pharma announced last week that the US FDA approved their new medication called Veozah, and the name is also known as fezolinetant, for the treatment of moderate to severe hot flashes and night sweats due to menopause. And this therapy is based on our understanding of the biology behind hot flashes. And it's a unique kind of drug because it is a non-hormonal treatment. So it's great for women who are undergoing menopause who are not able to take hormonal treatments for hot flashes and night sweats. And now, as we all know, or at least I think many people know what menopause is, it's a normal, natural change in a woman's life when her period stops. And it usually occurs between the ages of 45 and 55. And during this time, many women experience vasomotor symptoms. And vasomotor symptoms are commonly referred to as hot flashes and night sweats. And those are the most prevalent menopausal symptoms. And they typically prompt a lot of women to seek treatment for them. So around 60 to 80% of women experience vasomotor symptoms, either during or after the menopausal transition. And it's important to note that vasomotor symptoms can have a big impact in a negative way on the daily activities and overall quality of life of women. Lots of women experience just like during the day, their concentration may be hampered. In the night, they may wake up like their pajamas may be all soaked with sweat, and it's very disruptive to their overall quality of life for many women. And while scientists do not understand the exact physiology of vasomotor symptoms, it's believed that the significant fluctuations in reproductive hormones play a role in triggering these symptoms. And also, it is known that different ethnicities have different kinds of symptoms and a different duration of vasomotor symptoms. And this is because there are some genes that are involved in the synthesis and metabolism of various estrogens. And those genes and the metabolism of various estrogens, this is associated with vasomotor symptoms. There's also other lifestyle factors that may contribute to the risk of experiencing vasomotor symptoms, such as smoking and obesity. Now, when women experience vasomotor symptoms, these things all include hot flashes and night sweats, like we talked about, but these also contribute to sleep disturbances, anxiety, and even heart palpitations, which is when you can feel your heart kind of beating. And for some women, these symptoms may naturally diminish over time without any specific treatment. And one of the most commonly prescribed treatments for vasomotor symptoms in menopause is hormone replacement therapy. And so hormone replacement therapy works by replenishing hormone levels, especially estrogen, to compensate for the hormonal decline during menopause. But not all patients can take hormonal therapies. So, for example, women who have had a breast cancer diagnosis, for example, they can't take hormonal therapies to treat their vasomotor symptoms in menopause. And there's many other reasons why women may not be able to take hormonal replacement therapies. And this is where a drug like Veozah can really come in. So Astellas did say that their drug Veozah is very special because it does have a different mechanism of action to treat severe vasomotor symptoms. And so how it does that is Veozah targets the root cause of hot flashes and night sweats, where they start, which is in the hypothalamus of the brain. Now, the hypothalamus of the brain is responsible for regulating body temperature. And before menopause, there is a balance between estrogens and a brain chemical called neurokinin B. And the body relies on this balance to keep its internal thermostat in check. But what happens during menopause is that the levels of estrogen and neurokinin B, they become unbalanced. And when this happens, the hypothalamus of the brain tells the body that it's hot when it's not. So this new drug Veozah works by blocking the action of this chemical, neurokinin B, in the brain. And so it prevents it from activating the temperature control center. And by doing that, Veozah can reduce the number and intensity of hot flashes. So that's why Veozah, this type of drug, is called a neurokinin 3 receptor antagonist, meaning that it prevents the action of neurokinin on a specific type of neuron in the brain that's found in the brain's thermoregulatory center. And so by doing this, Veozah does reduce the frequency and severity of vasomotor symptoms from menopause. So Astellas is really proud of this drug. They say that it is a new mechanism of action for treating menopausal hot flashes. Now, the FDA's approval of Veozah is supported by 2 randomized, placebo-controlled phase 3 clinical trials called Skylight 1 and Skylight 2, and these trials involved over 1,000 women across 180 sites in the US, Canada, and Europe. And during these phase 3 clinical trials, Veozah had statistically significant and clinically meaningful reductions from baseline in both the frequency and the severity of moderate to severe vasomotor symptoms. And these results were noticed at just 4 weeks. Okay, so they noticed these clinically meaningful reductions in hot flashes both at week 4, but then also at week 12 as well. And furthermore, there was a separate 52-week clinical study referred to as Skylight 4, and this was initiated to evaluate the long-term safety of Veozah. And so the safety of Veozah was evaluated for up to 52 weeks of exposure, and they noticed that the adverse reactions recorded were not severe, but most of them included abdominal pain, diarrhea, insomnia, back pain, hot flashes, and an increase in a liver enzyme, hepatic transaminase. So what's really great is that the scientists did notice that this drug, Veozah, it was really effective and it is safe for treating moderate to severe vasomotor symptoms from menopause. And also, the FDA is one of the first countries to approve Veozah, and the drug is currently under regulatory review in the European Union and Australia. So Astellas Pharma really wants to make this treatment available globally soon. And Astellas listed the price of Veozah to be around $550 for a 1-month supply, but it's important to note that this is the list price of the drug, so without insurance. Now, I do know that Veozah is not the first small molecule oral drug for treating menopause. There was another one approved around a decade ago. So although Astellas can't say that this is the first drug, this is the first non-hormonal therapy to treat vasomotor symptoms, it definitely is a great step forward for women's health. And Bayer, which is another big pharma giant, they are also evaluating another promising drug candidate for menopausal vasomotor symptoms, and their drug candidate is called milestone. Okay, and now milestone is an oral, once daily non-hormonal therapy, and it's an investigational drug, so it's not FDA approved yet. So Bayer is evaluating this drug in clinical trials. And why it's interesting is because this drug is also a neurokinin receptor antagonist for the reduction of vasomotor symptoms. So it has a similar mechanism of action to Veozah. And because Bayer had favorable outcomes in their phase 2b study of milestone, they have launched a phase 3 clinical trial to advance the development of milestone as a potential therapy for individuals that have vasomotor symptoms in menopause. So I just wanted to get your thoughts about this new drug, Veozah. I know this is like an all-female podcast at the moment, so just kind of wondering, what are your thoughts about this in terms of improving women's health?
Well, I think it's great to have a non-hormonal option because while you were talking there, Vera, I was looking at some of the risks of HRT for women. And of course, you mentioned women who have already, had a cancer diagnosis are not eligible to use this type of hormone replacement therapy. But in addition, it can increase your risk actually of breast cancer with the long-term use. And potentially an increased risk of endometrial cancer. And one of the other interesting risks I'm reading about here is that there's an increased risk of dementia if hormone therapy is started after midlife. So there are definitely some reasons there to, pursue other treatment options if a hormone-based therapy isn't right. And so I think that's where Veozah really comes in. One of the things that really struck me was the fact that one of the most commonly reported adverse reactions was actually hot flashes in taking Veozah. So I would hope that, considering that this drug has now been approved, that maybe the incidence of that particular adverse reaction wasn't too high. You wouldn't want to outweigh the potential benefit of helping to reduce some of those hot flashes that these women are experiencing anyways due to menopause. So that's one thing that really struck me.
Yeah, I actually noticed that too. It's kind of almost ironic, but I thought, okay, the FDA must have seen that this side effect was in a way smaller amount of women compared to the benefits of this drug. So at the end, it was approved.
Yeah, and when you were talking about it helps to sort of regulate temperature, I have not gone through menopause and I don't know what it's like, but I feel like my body naturally is not great at regulating its temperature, and same thing with my father. So I wonder if there will be, or if research that was involved with the creation of this medication could be applied to just other things, like being able to regulate temperature better, if that's been a problem in someone's life. I don't know if that's an actual medical diagnosis, but it seems like since they've isolated that as one of the major things that it's able to treat, maybe it could be applicable to other things too.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up because actually, a lot of non-hormonal therapy drugs that are prescribed for hot flashes and menopause, they were originally not even developed for hot flashes.
Oh.
They were like antidepressants or something like that. And then I guess people realized, oh, this is actually really beneficial for my hot flashes, for example. So yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if this drug can have other therapeutic indications. I do know some people, they can't sweat, or they don't have a lot of sweat glands, or they just can't sweat a lot. So it's really hard for them to regulate their body temperature. I wonder if that could be used in that area. But yeah, I also feel like, as women, I don't know, I haven't really heard a lot of older women than me talk about their menopausal symptoms. I just think in culture, it's still considered almost a little bit taboo to speak about these things. So I'm glad that this new drug has come out, and I think it's I've seen it a lot discussed on YouTube, so I think it's going to be something very popular. And I just think it's going to help women talk more about these issues that they may feel shy to talk about.
Yeah, you know what? I completely agree, Vera. And I think that this is one of those things that could be really minimized, like both in the minds of the women who are experiencing it, and maybe coming externally as well from other people, because it seems like, oh, hot flashes, okay, so you're just a little too warm, take off your sweater. But as you said, it's a real quality of life thing. And so if you're having these night sweats and you're not sleeping well, these are real symptoms that shouldn't be just brushed off as, unimportant or, not serious enough to warrant treatment. And so I'm glad to hear that there's been, more of a conversation around this. And I hope that their marketing of this drug kind of focuses on that as well. And like you say, removing some of the stigma associated with menopause.
Yeah, I totally agree. I am kind of interested to see how Astellas will market this drug. Mm-hmm. And I imagine that they will probably launch some TV ads for it, because remember, there's like a huge market segment for this drug. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like, half the population is women, and all women essentially will hopefully go through menopause in their life. And just the fact that 60 to 80% of them report hot flashes as severely impacting their quality of life, it means that there is a huge market segment for this drug, right? Mm-hmm. So they probably are focusing a lot now on their marketing efforts. Okay, great. Really good to get your input from that. And now let's talk about a new FDA approval that happened last week. And this was for a dermal injection called SkinVive by Juvéderm. Now, I know we don't talk a lot about the FDA-approved treatments in the cosmetic industry, but I do think X-Talks does have some great webinars for skin health and skin ingredients. So I think this really correlates with that. And let's talk more about SkinVive. So Allergan Aesthetics, it is an AbbVie company known for the development of leading aesthetic brands and products. Allergan Aesthetics announced that the US FDA approved their groundbreaking hyaluronic acid product called SkinVive by Juvéderm. And this product has achieved great skin smoothness in the cheeks, according to their clinical studies. And it was FDA approved for all Fitzpatrick skin types 1 to 4. So this is from the lightest to the darkest skin type. So it addresses a range of skin quality concerns, and in my opinion, it is, very inclusive for all people. Now, SkinVive is an injectable gel, and it is injected into the skin to improve skin smoothness of the cheek in adults who are over 21 years old. And so Carrie Strom, the president, Global Allergan Aesthetics and Senior Vice President of AbbVie, said that SkinVive by Juvéderm is a category-creating hyaluronic acid product that leaves skin looking healthier, more glowing, and more hydrated. And according to Allergan Aesthetics, SkinVive is going to launch soon within the next 6 months, and its use will only be restricted to licensed physicians and practitioners. So this is not a product that people can buy for home use. So it's only going to be available through, physicians like dermatologists and cosmetic surgeons. And so it's only limited for commercial use in a doctor's office. Now, SkinVive will be the first and only intradermal microdroplet injection of hyaluronic acid that is available in the US. So this is a great milestone in skincare innovation. And the FDA, of course, granted approval for SkinVive based on promising clinical results that show that SkinVive enhances hydration, thereby improving skin smoothness of the cheeks, and it can deliver a lasting radiant glow for up to 6 months with optimal treatment. So, US-EU board certified dermatologist, Dr. Makrin Alexiadis, I hope I'm saying that name correctly. He was the lead investigator and author of the clinical trial for SkinVive by Juvéderm. They said that skin quality is among the top concerns my patients express when seeking aesthetic treatments. It's an extremely important factor I consider in my therapeutic process of restoring their natural beauty and appearance. And one way to improve skin quality, according to Dr. Alexiades, is by enhancing hydration. And so they think that SkinVive by Juvéderm is a really great treatment because it works under the skin surface to increase skin hydration and thereby improving skin quality. So if you're wondering if you want to know a little bit more of the science behind how SkinVive works, so the main component of SkinVive is hyaluronic acid. So that's the primary active ingredient. And clinical research conducted by Allergan Aesthetics showed that hyaluronic acid can enhance collagen density in a layer of the skin called the upper reticular dermis. And collagen is essential for maintaining skin strength and resistance. In addition, hyaluronic acid was found to increase the expression of a protein called fibrillin-1. And fibrillin-1 is a glycoprotein, and it supports the integrity of the dermal elastic fiber network. So as a scientist, I really appreciate it when, there's like a science behind a skincare treatment that was, clinically shown to improve the appearance of skin. And Allergan Aesthetics did evaluate SkinVive in a randomized, multi-center, controlled clinical study. And at the start of the study, 135 participants were randomized and underwent treatment with SkinVive, and 73 participants were randomized to a control. So the ratio of SkinVive to control was around 2:1. And after only 1 month follow-up after the initial treatments, the following significant improvements were observed in various aspects of facial skin. So I'm just going to give you a few results that I found meaningful. So around 74% of the participants were satisfied with the radiance of their facial skin, compared to only 11% at baseline. And approximately 78% expressed satisfaction with the hydration of their facial skin, which was an increase from only 24% at baseline. And so those clearly, a lot more people were satisfied with the appearance of their facial skin after only 1 month compared to baseline. And at the 6-month follow-up period, a majority of the participants in the treatment group maintained clinically significant improvements in skin smoothness of the cheeks. And this was indicated by Allergan's Cheek Smoothness Scale, which is a scale where you could evaluate essentially how smooth your cheeks are. And the clinical study also showed that SkinVive has good tolerability because it can be used as a long-term treatment option with good efficacy but minimal side effects. But the side effects that were noted in the clinical study were lumps and bumps on the skin, redness, swelling, tenderness, bruising, pain, firmness, and discoloration and itching at the injection sites. But the good news was that most of these side effects went away within 30 days. So although Allergan Aesthetics did not list the price of SkinVive yet, I saw online that there was a plastic surgeon in New York City called Dr. David Safir of the Safir Clinic. And this dermatologist said that the price of SkinVive in their clinic will likely begin around $1,800 per treatment, depending on the amount of product they need to use and the areas that are being treated. So this is $1,800 per treatment, and I think it will be done once every 6 months, for example. Now, X-Talks did write about another FDA-approved skin treatment a few months ago. So Daxxify was another aesthetic product that was recently FDA approved. And Daxxify was developed by Revenance Therapeutics. And last year, Daxxify received FDA clearance for improving moderate to severe frown lines in adults. So, yeah, I just wanted to get your opinion about this new product. I found it quite interesting. When I say this new product, I mean like SkinVive. I found it interesting because when I was on YouTube searching about like hyaluronic acid, I don't know if these like YouTube doctors are real doctors or not. I didn't look into their credibility, but like half of them say, hyaluronic acid, it's not that great and it doesn't work. And then the other half are like, this is an amazing like active ingredient in skincare. And we do know that hyaluronic acid is the main active ingredient of SkinVive. So I'm just wondering, like, did you two have any experience with hyaluronic acid? Have you heard about it before?
Yeah, the second you mentioned it, I was just doing like an inventory in my head of the skincare products that I use. And I've been using a hyaluronic acid serum from the company The Ordinary, which is a very affordable but reputable skincare brand for many years now. And it doesn't have a, large amount of hyaluronic acid in it, but I've, just speaking for myself, I've noticed that it's been excellent just as a daily serum to keep my skin like hydrated. I never struggle with dry skin, no matter what time of year it is, in addition to using a moisturizer as well. But I was familiar with it. And for me, it's I try things, and if they work for me, then I keep using them. And if they don't, I discontinue the use. But this has been a really like excellent product for me. And it's obviously different in this case though, because they're injecting it into the skin, and my pores are only so big. I don't think a lot of it is actually penetrating so deeply. But I do know that like the cheeks are one of the driest parts of the skin. I had gone for a facial one time, and I'm here thinking, oh, my skin is perfect, it's clear, it's whatever, and they shine a really bright light on your face, and the woman doing the facial was like, oh, your cheeks are actually really dry, and to the naked eye we don't notice these things. But so that's my input on hyaluronic acid. I don't know how effective it is, but it's been working great for me.
Yeah, I think we use the same serum. So
oh, yeah?
I have that one as well, and I really like it. And I think it is tricky in this space, Vera, to figure out who is like reputable. Like, who do you trust about these ingredients? Because obviously in the beauty world, there are lots of people with opinions, and even lots of doctors, like you say, with credentials. But you're not always sure about people's motivations, particularly if you're like watching a YouTube video, you're thinking, oh, does this dermatologist represent this product? Do they get a kickback, or is this a product they're pushing because maybe it's a more expensive treatment than something else? So I've also found that in the dermatology space, it's a lot harder to navigate those things. And I've had a similar experience to you with hyaluronic acid, Sydney, in that I think it's just like a good, I use the serum, as I say. I think it's kept my skin, soft as well. And I know that in general, it's a humectant. And so it's going to draw moisture from the air onto your skin. That's kind of like its main mode of action, I guess. And so I would believe that by injecting it under the skin, I can see that it would be more, what's the word? Like,
effective?
It would more effective, exactly. It would work better than just applying it, because even if you've, exfoliated beforehand, it still has to penetrate so many layers of even dead skin until it reaches that live tissue. And I think what struck me about this particular story is I was almost surprised that there wasn't already an approved product for this. So I think you said SkinVive is the first one of its kind, right, Vera?
I know that there have been other dermal fillers that have hyaluronic acid. So Revenance Therapeutics, they do have like a whole resilient hyaluronic acid collection. And it was, one of theirs, so Revenance Therapeutics, their collection was the first FDA approved filler, for injection. So Yeah, I definitely wonder like how novel is SkinVive.
Yeah, I guess they're saying it's the first and only intradermal microdroplet injection. So maybe there's something different about the like drug delivery essentially, as opposed to like the active ingredient.
Yeah, you're right. Probably.
Yeah.
What do we think about the price per treatment? So this is, they say results can last up to 6 months. And, obviously when you go to a dermatologist, like, or a cosmetic surgeon, they are a highly experienced, like, very well educated person, and any kind of skincare beauty treatment in their office is just going to be obviously very expensive because it needs to be worth their time and they need to pay for the product. I don't know. I feel like if I do have side effects that last more than a day, like what they were mentioning from the clinical trial of SkinVive, like you can have bumps, redness, etc., but most of it clears up within 1 month, I feel like it's not worth me getting this injection if I'm going to have side effects that last for like more than a week. Because even though the benefit can last 6 months, I don't want to have to spend like a week kind of, thinking, oh gosh, like, is this going to heal? When is this going to heal? So I don't know. I think it has pros and cons. And of course, it's very costly.
It's definitely one of those things. I don't have any experience getting these kinds of treatments, but it definitely seems like one of those things you really need to budget in much more so than you would even those skincare products themselves that you just buy, at the drugstore can definitely add up. This seems like one of those things you have to think of like a more of a long-term investment, I guess, as you say, if the results are sort of lasting for half a year, maybe you're only doing this twice a year, maybe you feel like it's worth it. But for context, I was kind of just Googling, what's the price of Botox, let's say, probably the most popular cosmetic, like injectable cosmetic. And I'm seeing obviously a range of prices, depending on where you go, but that's coming in at a couple $100s for sure, depending on, how much product they're using, where exactly they're injecting it in the face, that sort of thing. And so, and I'm not sure how long Botox lasts, but if it's less, less long lasting, I guess, than this particular product, and maybe this product is addressing someone's concerns more so than other injectable products, then yeah, $1,800 for one treatment seems like a lot, but maybe it's worth it to some people, and maybe if you average it out over the length of time that they're enjoying these results, maybe it doesn't seem like it's much.
Yeah, I had my immediate thought when you said the price was like to cringe. I was like, that is so expensive, especially for, if you're going to require multiple treatments. And even before you got into the price and things like that, I was wondering, is this an elective thing to get, or can you be prescribed it? And just how, thin of a line there kind of is with, actual medical skincare like issues that need to be solved outside of like cosmetic treatments, and then for more like a vanity thing, because if you struggle with your skin, that can be really detrimental to your mental health, and just you don't want to go outside. Like it's such a complex issue, and I wonder if there'll ever be more of like more thought put into like affordable treatments for things like this, because it on its surface it seems like it should be a relatively easy thing to solve, but obviously everyone's skin is so different, and people obviously try so many different things probably before doing like this elective injection, I would say. But I would say for the majority of people who struggle with the health and sort of smoothness of their cheek skin, this is it's not affordable for them. So but we're looking at something that is elective at the end of the day, and the people who are willing to pay the cash will absolutely do it. And the reason I think Botox is cheaper is I guess it's just been around for so much longer, and there's so many different providers of it. I think Juvéderm was like one of the original Botox providers. Is that, am I right in saying that? Like,
Yeah, you probably are, because Allergan got FDA approval to market Botox in 2002.
Yeah, I always recall going to doctors' offices and seeing ads for Juvéderm, Botox, or whatever. But I guess since then, so many different, pharmaceutical companies have developed, I guess, their own Botox or whatever. So I guess the prices come down, and maybe in many years, the price will come down for this too. That's what I was thinking, just because it's the first of its kind thus far.
Yeah, that's a good point. And just to clarify, yeah, Juvéderm and Botox are two different products. So Botox is like it's based on botulism toxin that I think freezes nerves, and so it helps to, I think, reduce some lines, because then you can't actually make some facial expressions after you've had Botox injections.
Right.
Whereas Juvéderm itself, I didn't know this, but it's the hyaluronic acid as well. So I guess that makes sense, considering this new product, SkinVive, is like a Juvéderm product. It's just another version of their original Juvéderm with that, what was it, the like microdroplet injection of hyaluronic acid. So maybe that makes it more bioavailable or long lasting or something like that. But going back to the price as well, I think, there's a certain level of prestige to this kind of thing. I think a dermatologist, if you're going there, for elective procedures, you're expecting to pay a certain amount. I think with Botox, you're right, it's been around for a while now. There are competitors. Prices have definitely come down. But I think with something like this, you don't, at least I don't really trust a certain, I don't know what price this would be, but like if I see like Botox, $10 for an injection or something, I'm going to be like a little wary. I'm going to be thinking, okay, who is it that's doing the injection? Is it clean? Is it safe? Is it actually Botox? There's been tons of horror stories of people traveling to other countries, South America, to get procedures done, and it's gone horribly wrong and that sort of thing. So I wonder, when they're coming up with the pricing for these aesthetic products, whether they take that into account and they think, okay, here's how much we need to price it at, obviously to make a profit, but also like, what is the price? What are people expecting to have to pay? I think that's sort of an interesting side to that as well, because there is something that makes it suspect if you were to make it like too affordable. Does that make sense?
That's such a good point, because it's becoming, these little like tweakments are becoming sort of part of the cosmetic surgery arena, even though they're not as like serious typically. But in that arena, you have like people who fly to different countries that offer much cheaper plastic surgeries than in the US or Canada or wherever they're based. And then they have these absolute horror stories. And then the ones that are safe and reputable are, costing way, way more, but they're not going to have these problems. So I think they probably think about these sort of procedures in the same way. And I've also heard of people, who run maybe clinics out of like hotel rooms or something, and then they get injected with like silicone and really dangerous things to be injected with, and just to save a couple dollars. So you're totally right. I think people are willing to pay the price, and to me, I'm not, and that's why I was so shocked by that price. But you're right. I think this is a space where they understand that price point.
Yeah, I also think it's important to point out that we're all fairly young, and so I kind of also feel the same way. I'm like, I'm not there. I think even when I was a little younger, like I'm 35, I think even when I was in my 20s, I was like, I'd never consider any of this stuff. But I think like as I approach 40, I can see this point of view a little bit more of these, like you said, tweakments, like little things to do. You start to notice little things and you're like, oh, that looks different, about your appearance. And so, I don't think that I would want to drop $1,200 right now, but talk to me in 5 or 10 years and, maybe you'll get a different answer.
Guys, I'm already going to see a dermatologist
Are
for
you?
my cheek smoothness.
Yeah.
Yes, because I have dry skin. So I did get a prescription cream. that worked well. I've also realized when I went on vacation to Cuba, I came back with like the most hydrated skin, I guess because the humidity is different there than in Canada. So I think it's a combination of just like, maybe I'm not drinking enough water, maybe I'm having too much coffee, maybe it's the weather, maybe I'm getting older, I don't know what it is, but I've definitely noticed. So yeah, I think for SkinVive, there is a certain clientele that they're looking for, and I think it's probably, you know, people who are well off and can pay the price. Because remember, it's only available to licensed like physicians, like dermatologists and cosmetic surgeons, essentially. And you know, you're not just paying for the product, you're paying for their time, you're paying for the clinic's time. So to me, SkinVive's price is probably reasonable. Once again, I don't think I'm going to pay that price yet, but maybe in 5 or 10 years I will. So we'll see.
Yeah. And just before we close out today's episode, I wanted to mention that we have some really great related webinars for both of these stories that we talked about in today's podcast. So we've got one upcoming for innovations in skincare ingredients, and then we have a great recorded webinar for women's health and all about menopause treatment. So we'll include the links to both of those in the show notes for today in case any listeners want to check them out.
Thanks, Sarah. And that's the end of this episode of the X Talks Life Science podcast. If you liked today's show, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. Thanks, everyone, and see you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the X Talks Life Science podcast. If you enjoyed our discussions today, please share the episode with your friends and colleagues, and be sure to subscribe in order to be notified when a new episode is released. To join in on the discussion, you can find X Talks on social media. Email podcast@xtalks.com or comment on the articles directly. Links are in the show description. Take a moment to join our community at xtalks.com to get access to everything we have to offer, including webinars, job listings, virtual meetings, articles, and more. The views and opinions expressed in the podcast are those of the speakers sharing them. They should not be taken as professional advice and do not necessarily reflect the policy or position Honeycomb Worldwide. For further information, email us at podcast@xtalks.com. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week.